should, because it's not, it's three hunters. And they're snorting, they're laughing so hard, and stupid jokes. I might try and find it again, because it's so funny. When I saw Cody's hat, it just reminded me of that. Cute activity if you ever want to send it to Kelly. It's those sponges.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call to order the Parks and Forestry Board meeting February 13th, 2024. If everybody's had a chance to review the minutes from the November 21st, 2023 meeting, we're looking for a consideration, a motion to approve the consent calendar, which is the agenda and the minutes. Can you talk into your microphone, please?
I make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Motion made by Jeannie,
I second.
seconded by Allison. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next up is the Park Superintendent report. Cody?
Since our last meeting, a few things have occurred in the Parks Department. John Rosh, who has been with the Parks Department, I believe for 34 years, retired on January 15th. So he decided to do different things, and so that job is currently still open. We listed it, I believe, last week for a new cemetery position. So we're still looking for a person on that job. Also, we started to get our summer seasonals kind of getting in place again. Last year we had 6 of them, and they're all college kids, and I contacted most of them last week, and it sounds like 5 of the 6 for sure are coming back, and the other one probably is, which is good because they've done it 1 year, so you don't have to retrain them. So our summer seasonals positions are looking good. We've done a lot of things with this nice weather. Got a lot of picnic tables done. We've done a lot of painting stuff, which we normally don't do this time of year. Some other projects Rick's going to show us some pictures of here when he does his report. But yeah, the Parks Department park deal things, since there was no snow, we could kind of take care of a lot of things that didn't get done last fall, and they've been really busy, and hopefully we do get some snow here to get some moisture in the ground. We never did get the ice skating rink up. You know why on that? Of course, the weather did not cooperate very well, so we'll try again next year on the ice skating rink. So any other questions on the parks you guys have?
No, but I do want to thank you for all your help taking down the Christmas
Oh.
decorations.
Yes,
Very
yeah,
much
the
appreciated.
two ladies that helped you out. It works. The more hands you can have, the faster it goes. That's for darn sure.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Perfect, thanks, Cody.
Yep.
Any other questions for Cody? Moving on to my report, I just wanted to let you know we have Rochelle Brook in the audience, and she's going to speak here. She's representing the Sturgis Soccer Association. We met with her, been probably a month ago now that we met with you, and I'll just turn it over to you, and you can kind of go through the presentation, then we'll follow up with any questions or comments.
Absolutely. So Sturgis Soccer Association, a little bit of background on it, the east end of the field or the complex, which would be the field with the design in the middle of it, right now is in a better state or in a worse state than it should be. We have some issues with playing surfaces and whatnot. So Sturgis Soccer Association got together and Met with a few people, one of them being Mammoth, which is a turf field company, and got a quote to turf that east end of that field. Part of the problem with the east end is the creek bed runs underneath of it, so there's a lot of shifting and moving there. So in the quote we got from Mammoth, which was like 1.4 million, which is obsolete at this time because it was a few years ago, so that price is not current. It would create an under barrier. We would pour cement, allow drainage to go through. We would turf the top of the field. We would bring in bleachers for spectators, coverings, new interior fencing. If you've been down there recently, you'd see the Learning Center, which is that building located in the center of the soccer complex. We would like to add on to concession stands over there at the same level because we're in the floodplain, so it would have to be brought up. Our bathrooms down there also would need to be updated. And then an east end exit on Highway 34, so that back end. That was our original plan back in 21, I believe, is when we got that. Yeah, so upgrades was back in 2021, and it was $1.4 million to do that. So that would give us an additional full-size U14 and above field. Right now, we share the space with the high school soccer program, and they cannot use the east end to play or warm up on because of the divots and the condition of it. So in turn, that then limits the amount of space we have on the west end of it for a recreation program in the fall, which is, we have large numbers. So we would like to somehow increase our footprint along with providing playable surfaces for all soccer players and everybody involved. We have raised about $500,000 to go in to the project. We have donations, and if you can see on the slide, Agnico Eagle, Monument Health, the hotel bid has given us money to try and get this done. We've realized that no matter what, if we resurface or fix the east end, our physical footprint will still be the same, and we're already out of space. So we have thought and had small conversations, I guess I will say, with the school about helping them resurface Whittle Field into a turf field or something so more usage can be done. One of the concerns on Whittle is during fall, you have basketball, and if you add soccer on top of it, the maintenance on that grass would be incredible because of overusage. It would take a lot to get it back. So we have talked with the school system a little bit about maybe helping provide some funds to turf that. So then that would increase our footprint as well and give us more playing space. I think in the end, though, looking at alternative locations and maybe finding a larger home for soccer would be best. I'll tell you right now, we opened up our spring registration for our tournament in April, and we're already seeing record numbers coming to that. We're already above what we were projected or what we had last year at the same time. I guess, any questions?
So where are you looking?
So I think that was one of the takeaways from the meeting was, number one, to get with the school and find out what is possible there, to co-use some of the existing facilities. And as Rochelle said, you know, by putting turf on the Whittle Field, that would extend the use and the playability on it. Now with it being a grass surface, it just can't withstand, no different than the soccer field, can't withstand that day after day after day after use. So that's one thing that we're following up with, or that Rochelle is.
Yeah.
And the city's gonna partner with that. The other thing is, that came out of our meeting is to try and develop a strategic plan. And that strategic plan not only is just solely soccer, but it's all the different facets of everything from youth football to soccer to baseball to softball, everything, and come up with a master plan for use of our facilities, and we're going to talk about some other things a little bit later in the meeting that we've got going to help us better understand that. But in the meantime, I think what we'll probably be moving towards is to, and I don't know at this point in time, we haven't really finalized how we're gonna, if we're gonna set a whole different committee, or if we're gonna, I think what I like to do, and probably what we will try and move forward with is to add some positions to the park board, and they would be, non-voting members, but we would bring representatives from different facets of, maybe somebody from baseball, somebody from football, maybe somebody from the school, somebody from Black Hills Trail, and make them an ex officio member. So at least on a quarterly basis, we can get together and kind of brainstorm what the needs are, where we're falling short, what we're doing a good job at, and try and be a little bit more inclusive. That's our goal. I don't know right now how we're going to get there. That's what we're still working on. But I think within that's one of our goals in 2024 anyways, is to come up with some sort of a plan that we can present and recommendations from the park board, and then move it on through to the council and at least get something memorialized. That's not saying that and build all these facilities, but at least have a understanding of what our challenges are, what areas we do have available, and how it could look. And even from that meeting, which we had some council representation, I mean, I think that the group of us that met was in agreement that at some point in time we'll probably have to spend a little bit of money to have some renderings done of what this could look like and what the space would be. But we haven't nailed it down to a particular site yet. But that's something that we will be doing in the future. And there was a number of sites that we talked about that could be potential.
Yeah.
Speaking of spending money on designs, one of the questions that I have at the end of the thing is, I'm curious how much the city spent on the park board's designs, including the final ones that,
Park boards.
not the park board, the city spent on the park designs for the Lakeside Adventure Park.
Yeah, that's not on I mean, that's a council.
Right, at the end, we'll discuss that.
Anyways, anybody have any other questions for Rochelle?
Yeah, I can't say a location because we're not far enough into it, and I don't have the capability of picking a location, I guess, is the biggest thing. And, there's plenty of locations within town or outside of town that we could use. And for Sturgis soccer at this point, if we could just get another field, we would be happy. That is just the extent of it. If we could just get one more U14 field, obviously we would like it all together. That's in a perfect world, but just one more would fill our needs for the next season, maybe two. I couldn't forecast much out of one more field after that, though, because our growth is...
It's there, and we've even gone so far as to have conversations, with the DOT on their tournament that they host. It brought in so many people that they were parking on the south side of Lozelle or the highway, and there wasn't a safe and effective way to get people across that road. So we're conversing with the DOT on what our options are, what things we could do to better make that a more safe situation, because the last thing we want to do is have somebody get hurt. But there's a lot of moving parts when we start talking about these big events like this. So I think, like I said, I was very happy with the outcome and the direction from the meeting, and I think we've got some clear direction how to move forward.
Oh, absolutely. I didn't walk away from the meeting feeling missing something or anything like that. It was a great meeting. It was productive. I think we have options. I just don't know if we're ready to say, here's all the options. Yeah. We need to do more research. We need to see what baseball needs, what softball needs. We need to see, look into an indoor facility as well. We don't know if that's a possibility, but it's something. There's many other factors. And I'm just one association coming with what we want to do and what we would like to happen, So, and I think it's very important that we reach out to all the other associations and talk to other people about what they need as well, before we just say, soccer wants it here and this is what we get.
Perfect.
Anything else?
Thanks, Rochelle.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Moving on, one of our other projects that's slated for this year, we've been working with the local Lions Club organization, and we have plans, a project in cooperation with the Game Fish and Parks. We're going to dredge Lions Club Pond out this year. That little picture in the left is basically what they use. It's kind of like a big vacuum, and then they pull that silt out and they lay it in a tube for it to dry out, and then we'll haul it off once it's dried out. But that, Lions Club Park is fed by a spring, and so it silts in pretty bad. I think the last time that it was dredged, Shorts did it with an excavator, and it's probably close to 20 years ago. Yeah, so we're trying to work with the Game Fish and Parks. Of course, they come down and stock that, and to get on a more of a regular plan with keeping that dredged. But that'll be a great. It needs to be done, and there's so many kids and not just kids. There's a lot of adults that use Lions Club. It seems like in the summer and spring, every time I go by there, there's somebody there. Doesn't matter what time of the year. And again, so working with the DOT, we're going to try and come up with a solution to protect that. It's such a narrow strip in between the highway and the bank. We're worried about somebody getting hurt. Seeing kids when they're casting, their line goes out and hits cars. It's that close. So trying to work with them to come up with a solution. Some of that bank is eroding away as well. So they've been very cooperative and trying to identify what we can and can't do. That project, on the DOT project is slated for 2026, which will be, kind of that area from down by the city park up to 10th Street. So we'll continue to work with them and come up with solutions. But in the meantime, just wanted to let you know about that project we're working on with the Game Fish and Parks, and it should be a great enhancement to Lions Club. So
Rick, how deep is that lake, kind of, sort of?
So there's a real hard, when Shorts did it back when they drove their excavator in there, so there is a hard bottom to it. When it is completely cleaned out, I think it's close to 10 or 12 feet deep.
Wow,
Yeah.
cool.
So yeah, it's an interesting little pond. We'd let water out of that every day. That's how much spring water comes in. Cody goes down there almost daily and lets water out, which flows across underneath of the highway and then into Bear Butte Creek.
That's kind of a sneaker. It's a cool place.
Oh, it's very cool, yeah.
And I 10 feet in the deepest spot, but otherwise it's 4 or 5 feet in the rest.
I think the whole thing, across the bottom, it's just silted in. I think once we dredge it, you'll be surprised how deep it actually
They can
is.
dredge it without draining the whole thing.
Yeah, they'll put that boat basically
and
on
just
there
suck it up and-
and suck it on, and then it goes into this big sock, and then dries out. And then once it's dried out, then we'll just load that up and take it up to the rubble site.
Cool.
So pretty neat project actually. Any other questions on that? Next, I wanted to let you guys know we did have another meeting with the pickleball users. That was a joint meeting that we had with a bunch of the pickleball players, the Parks Department, and the Community Center. Again, the common theme, the thread is we need more space, we need more facilities. We had a really good meeting, and again, we've planned to meet with them quarterly to see how things are going. We were able to listen and hear what their problems were. And we came up with some intermediate solutions that I think will prove effective. They're not necessarily the long-term solutions, but in the meantime, I think that they will afford that group a little bit more time and use on the facilities. And again, some of those takeaways that we had from that meeting were that we were going to host quarterly meetings with the city, both with the parks and the community center, those players. This spring, we're going to mark out some additional courts and arrange them in a manner. Right now, the pickleball courts in the morning hours face east, and so the sun's coming up and it's difficult. We're going to stripe some out on the existing tennis courts so that they can be multi-use. I think we've even talked about the basketball court that we have down there, striping that out as well. And then, really one of the things that we were able to kind of put forward and come up with as a solution, and it was very well received, is we actually have all these different neighborhood parks. And the one over in Vernon Heights, the Starline Park, actually 2 years ago, we did stripe out a pickleball court on that. And then the guys are able to come and bring they have portable nets and whatnot. But we talked to them about the ability maybe to create some kind of a small circuit and incorporate these neighborhood parks in, because especially that early in the morning, they're never getting used. So, again, it's hearing what the problems are and then trying to come up with solutions to fix them. So I felt pretty good. And I think that the people that contacted us were happy. I know that Rod was able to facilitate some more indoor time for them without creating a conflict. And then lastly, again, as part of that master plan, is identifying what all these needs are and how we can address them, and then ultimately, how do we make it come to fruition. So, the last several months, I guess, have been fairly busy meeting with different people, and again, that's the same kind of common thread: the basketball people, the pickleball people, the soccer people, the baseball. I mean, everybody needs more space. One of the other interesting things, and I think sometimes we're a little bit hard on ourselves or critical of our facilities. We did get contacted by the State Softball Association this year, and they want to host some state regional tournaments here on our fields versus their other option was Rapid City and Sioux Falls. So they chose and want to come here versus going to those other places. And so those would be the tournaments that get you into state. So they'll be large tournaments. The basketball tournament here a few weeks ago, 110 teams. I mean, that's huge. So I think the more of this that we're aware of, and the more we can put into a plan, and again, plans take some time. They're not overnight, and especially at the city level, any kind of municipal. I mean, we've already starting to work on 2025 budget, and we're barely into 24. So they do take some time, but I think identifying what those needs are and getting it down in writing and putting that forth and having something to say, hey, this is what we're trying to achieve, is a good step in the right direction. So pretty happy with that. Next thing is our skate park. And so from time to time, I mean, we've got a nice skate park. Definitely could be some improvements made. We were contacted last week by Spearfish, who was building a new skate park. And they asked us if we were interested in obtaining their current park. And so, of course, we jumped on that. So Cody went down and met with them, and we took some measurements and tried to figure out how we can make this work. And so at the end of the day, we've made an agreement with Spearfish that they're able to transfer that. Because we're another government entity, they don't have to surplus and go to auction or destroy or I mean, those were their other options. We're going to work with them, and we've got to have the equipment disassembled by Memorial Day and hauled off, and then we'll refurbish it and put it into our park. But these are the items that we're looking at getting. So again, they're similar to what we already have, but bringing them down here, I mean, that will make our park. We'll take those apart, we'll refurbish them, paint them, sand them down, paint them, it should be a really nice improvement to our skate park. And again, you know, we constantly hear that too, that we never do anything for the youth. Well, I mean, we do a lot of things for the youth. And I forgot to even put in here, I did make a post on it on our Public Works Facebook site. The work that Cody and his guys have been doing on Strongfield on the Crow's Nest, on the last week and a half, they've completely, you know, took the siding off, have got that re-sided, repainted all the trim. It needed it. It had been beat up for a few years, you know, with foul balls and hail, and it looks very nice. We worked with a local contractor, Dusty Harrison, from American Siding. And then ProBuild out of First Source out of Rapid City donated the materials. So again, what a great project. We partnered with another organization to get it done, and at the end of the day, the city and the community reap the benefits. I mean, we're always looking for those kinds of projects. So
Will that fit in the existing, or will it?
Yeah, it's we'll have about 10. That actually what they have there was put in the exact same time as ours. It's the exact same thing, so it's going to match up to ours perfectly. And we've taken ours apart a dozen times probably because we kept moving it. So it's easy. The one guy knows how to do it, take it apart. So Spearfish had the company. It's ARC. They were going to come in and move that set right there and put it someplace else, and they were going to charge Spearfish $40,000 just to move it and put it back together. Well, we'll have it tore apart, moved, and reassembled in about 3 days. Our guys, because we've done it before, it's easy. It'll match right up to ours. We'll paint it all the same color. Everything will be the same, and it'll be an enormous skate park when it's done. But it'll have about 10 feet on each end, still a room where it's at now.
That's cool.
That's cool.
yeah.
Way cool.
And you didn't even have to buy it.
Nope,
Nothing.
given to us free.
That's very nice of Spearfish.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you know, that goes to show, I mean, the partnerships we have, whether it be with other municipal entities, with the DOT, with the county, with, you know, that's what it's about. And, you know, thankfully they did reach out to us and we were able to use it. You know, like I said, some of the options they were looking at were destroying it. I mean, and where there's another community that can use it and reap the rewards, I mean, that's a great thing. So, you know, kudos to them for reaching out to us and
Kudos
you know,
for knowing how to take it apart, though, too.
yeah, that's not a problem. We'll get it taken apart and get it hauled down here, and you know, that'll be, like I said, a great improvement to that skate park. So we look forward to that, and we look forward to giving you some more updates as that's happening.
When do you project that maybe take apart situation?
Well,
take place?
they said as soon as Memorial Day is over, from Memorial Day to Labor Day is their slowest time, Spearfish said, for the use. So once Memorial Day is over, we can come in that following Tuesday and.
They're gonna take that fence down.
Yep. And
So
they-
it'll be much more accessible
Yep,
for us.
it comes about in 4-foot sections. So we're gonna have a skid steer. We're gonna pick up, put it on trailers. We'll strap them down, haul to Sturgis, and then reassemble it and
That's
be like
huge.
it's meant to be.
Awesome.
So that's what I have for my report. Is there any questions on anything else going on that you wanna talk about, or that's, no questions on any of those projects?
What color are you going to paint it?
You know, what we have now is blue. I'll be honest with you, we've got a couple of pretty talented ladies within our parks department, and they were just this week painting merry-go-rounds, and you know, we might leave it up to them to see what they can come up with. They really did a good job on, and actually last year too, we had a good group of people that were able to paint some of our other.
It's at First Avenue if you want to go look at it. Just got put up yesterday, back on the merry-go-round did, so. Each year we paint a new one, so.
Yeah, at the Willow Park. So yeah, we'll see. I don't want to give away all the surprises. On to old business. So you know, the last meeting we talked a little bit about the Bear Butte Cemetery project and the scatter garden. One of the things that we tasked the park board with was to number one, come up with what we thought was a fair fee to charge to use the scatter garden, and then secondly, how are we going to create a, actually Allison brought up the fact of putting in some kind of electronic screen. We didn't think that that would work real well because of the, we don't have power, and so, but it got us to thinking, and actually what we did come up with, so we've also is to have this ready by Memorial Day. We've got it roughed in pretty well. We've got some cleanup to do, a few more trees and things to cut out yet this spring, but we've for the most part got it roughed in. But what we did get to thinking about when we're talking about a directory is a QR code, and so we can build these stands basically like what that lady is standing at, that gives you directions, and then you would scan a QR code with your phone, and it will go into a searchable database. And so we've been talking. Our cemetery program is called SIMS with a C, and we reached out to them and said, "Hey, what are our options?" And they actually work with this other company, this burialsearch.com. Let me get my thing turned off here. So they work with burialsearch.com, and when you pull that up, so this QR code would I gotta escape, I think, so I can share this screen. So when you scan that QR code, it would bring, what am I not doing right here? I'm still sharing the wrong. I might have to. Okay, so it brings you to this site, which you can see there's a whole bunch of different, actually the city of Belle Fourche is on here. Anyway, so the Bear Butte Cemetery would be listed in here. You would click onto that, and then you would go into, so this is already, our program runs this way. It would pull up our cemetery, which looks actually similar to this. But then you can search, over here are your search criteria, last name, and for example, I already did that. I don't know these people, but I did this. I hope nobody here. O is A. So if you search these, you will see that Captain Donald Pelkey comes up, and you click on his name, and you see how it zooms into where they are. And then this information over here is actually, there's a lot of different information you can put on there. Names, the block, the lot, the space, the date of death, date of birth, date of burial. You can put in things such as the pictures, and then it pulls up right to where at in the cemetery they are. So not only for the scatter garden, but we thought this would be a great feature, a great addition for the entire cemetery. We already have all of this data in a database, so it's just a matter of converting it over into this program. I was going to show you this one. This one I thought was another neat one. So Colonel Wood, and this shows, so for example, you can put a picture in there. You could, then there's their headstone, their marker. And also, I mean, you can put the bitch. So there's a lot of capability within this, which we, like I said, we thought is what a great idea. Kind of brings us into the 21st century, solves the problem at hand. So in order to do this, there was a $1,500 setup fee, and then it's $700 a year for maintenance for them to and they would upload it. Basically it stores in the cloud. So as we add data into our computer system, the finance office does, it automatically is on there. So there's it's not like once a year they upload it, it's real time. So we thought that that was really a great, unique way to do that, and is really cost effective. So, you know, what we would probably do is put these stands with the directions and the QR codes, you know, throughout the cemetery, at different locations. You know, maybe we'd have a dozen of them or 24, however many, and we'll give you the instructions on how to do that. And then literally you could just search, and there's actually even a way where once you search and you find it, if you were like completely on the other side of the cemetery, it will give you directions on how to get to the plot that you're looking for. So really thought that that was a great opportunity and a great solution. And it wouldn't require, again, you know, everybody has a smartphone with them anymore. I don't think that we would completely do away with the directory, but this would just be in addition to what we already have, and a great way to keep track and record of who is in our scatter garden. So
That's great that it'd be like a link too, because then if you actually build out like your family tree, or if you're doing the
Right.
ancestry, you just click on that link and there you go with everything.
we were pretty happy when, I mean, this was one that we were like, yeah, this is
Yeah.
This is great. So, great solution, and I think it'll be something that will be a good, and like I said, there's, you know, these are all other different clients. I didn't look to see how many South Dakota, but I did see the Belle Fourche. They're listed in alphabetical order, so, you know, Bear Butte Cemetery would be at the top.
You could just skip this and just go right to ours too. You wouldn't even
Right. Right, and the QR code, that's probably what we would do, would not take you to this page, but it would take you right into our page. So, just thought that that was a really great way, you know, great solution and a great way. So, thank you for getting the wheels turning.
When do you think you'll have that?
Our goal right now, is to have the scatter garden up by Memorial Day. We have to get some ordinance changes done that allow us to do that. It's not illegal to scatter ashes, but we have an ordinance that prohibits it. I mean, so we have to undo that. And I don't do you remember how long I don't think this was a long implementation time. I mean, because like I said, we already have all the data they need. This is just it's almost like a module of what we already have. It's just hosted by a different company because it's on the cloud, but it goes right into it. So yeah, literally we could have that part of it up and running in weeks. Next thing we wanted to talk about, is everybody good with I mean, does everybody think that's a good direction to move for
Yeah, I think that's
for
cool.
doing that?
I just had one question. Did you say, like, the last time we talked about it, that during the rally, people come in and ask too about the scattering and?
Not so, I mean, during the rally, we have people that scatter ashes. We have people that scatter ashes on Main Street and in the flower gardens. And so, you know, maybe this is a way to, you know, encourage, you know, to do it, give people a place to do it. There's nothing illegal about it, but I think that any opportunity we get to provide a better service or a better place, I think is good. And then for our residents and families that do live here and call this home, I mean, that we see more and more cremains than we do full burials. So
I was just thinking that it'd be a good opportunity for the city, you know, to inform them that the QR code, that seems really
Yeah.
cool, you know, just to let them know that that's a possibility.
yeah, and it would be, you know, we would certainly have that out, I think, on our website, and so, you know, I'm sure there will be a number of people that would take advantage of it. There's always going to be some that don't, but just again, something else we can offer. So currently up at the Bear Butte Cemetery, this is what our schedule is for a lot. So for an adult, it's $275, and then $185 for perpetual maintenance, excuse me. Infant is $55 and $85, and then a cremation, which is still in either a cremains lot, or you can put multiple cremains in a full lot that's 5 by 10. Is still $155. So I guess we'd be looking for some direction, suggestions on what do you think is an appropriate fee to charge for the scatter garden. And I don't know, and I probably should have researched it. I don't know if this is the going rate, like if Spearfish versus, Mount Moriah or Belfouche. I didn't see this is what we currently charge for our lots.
How much, do they have an individual fee or how are you said it was $700?
So that's just an annual maintenance fee for them to host.
The QR.
We would create the QR. They're just hosting the cloud-based storage and search.
Like, how much do you think it will cost to upkeep that area for the city?
And so part of the perpetual maintenance is the upkeep. Keeping it nice and when things, get destroyed or they get to a end of life type scenario, whether it's a fence or there's ongoing maintenance. We spend a tremendous amount of time, mowing and weed eating and things like that. So, that those are some of the things that we're able to do. More land acquisition. Those are all things that part of that perpetual maintenance we're allowed to do. It's defined in codified law what you can and cannot use the perpetual maintenance funds for. So I think in my interpretation and my reading, something like that, that's where we will probably look at, because this isn't a budgeted item, but, again, it's not that big of a fee to begin with. So we probably that $2,200, we'll probably use some of the perpetual maintenance funds to implement that. As far as building the stands and the QR codes and things, we can do that in-house. And then we'll just send them out to a printer to get them printed on a hard plastic. So we'll have a little bit of cost, but again, that's what it's for. I don't know, again, and maybe we need to do a little more research. I think we have a little bit of time, but, I guess kind of coming up with what we think is a fair price for somebody to have a spot to, and probably for the most part, it's not only the spot, but it's the record keeping so that your family and your kids' kids, they can go and they know where grandma or grandpa, they have a place to go and reflect and be like, hey, grandpa and grandma are here. Without having something like this, and if people were just scattering ashes, you don't have that. And at some point in time, you probably will lose that through generations because people just won't know. So, the whole idea is to keep a record of who is there and gives, closure or something for family to be able to go and know that their loved one is here. And it's a really neat spot. We're peeking right through the gap in the S curves, and you can see Bear Butte. So it's a really neat place. It's up enough in the trees where you really don't see the rest of the cemetery. So it's kind of a neat spot, and I think it'll get used quite a bit.
My other question on that is it wheelchair accessible?
We're working towards that. We've got we made a couple of different routes in. One is what I would call a little more sequel or tranquil and scenic, and then we have a shorter, more direct route that would meet the ADA requirements. We have to figure out, we're kind of going back and forth on, would we want to asphalt the pathways or, this is something to get started with. I think we'll continue to make improvements. I think we're at some point in time, we're going to want to have some parking area up there that's a little more hard surfaced, things like that. But the goal was for us anyways to try and and get something started and kind of, again, have a deadline and try and meet that deadline.
Yeah, I guess that would be the only thing that I'd kind of think about too, like incorporating when you're trying to find out the price. You know, right now it might not be used as much, but looking forward in the future, you know, like just to make sure that,
Yeah, we've
Everybody
had
can
quite a
come,
few requests
you know.
for, hey, where can we
right,
scatter at? I mean, that's what brought this along, was not us, trying to reinvent the wheel or be creative. I mean, it was done by people saying, hey, we have a need for this service, where can we do it?
and then maybe after it's built, maybe some of the churches or something would, you know, think about adding or helping out, you know, in the future, legacy type thing.
Have you seen any other cemeteries on what they're charging?
I didn't, and I should have. I didn't do I mean, I would need to research that, and I can certainly do that in the meantime, and then maybe we could send out an email and see what everybody thinks. I should have done that. I didn't. I pulled our rates. I didn't even think about. I don't know I mean, even if that's the word, how competitive, our rates are, and I don't know if. I mean, I don't know. Easy enough to find out what the everybody is charging for burial plot. And again, the idea on this is not to make money. I mean, it's not to make money. It's we want to be able to provide a service, but in doing that, there's some cost. So again, I think we really want to try and keep it on the lower end of things. I mean, losing a loved one is hard enough, and all the other costs associated with it are huge. This is not meant to be, like I said, at all a way to make money. We're just trying to
Just make sure that everybody can.
if we have it, we want to make sure we can take care of it, and
Would you open up that road? You know how it's blocked down there? It used to be open.
probably not.
Okay.
I don't think so. So I think, I mean, you're familiar with it. You know where the big rock is. So just to the east of that, I think what we would make a parking lot there. And again, we're not talking about a parking lot that's like down at the football field. I mean, we're talking usually if you're gonna do a service like scatter, I mean, it's a couple of car family.
It's kind of a hard gravel right now.
Yes, and so that hard gravel area, at some point in time, I think that we would like to pave that. And then we've talked about, again, whether or not, I think one of the goals for the pathway would be to be similar to what we have out at Fort Meade with that crushed limestone, and that actually is ADA compliant then. I mean, it's not hard surface, but it's a nice surface. It's easy for us to be able to take care of and keep the weeds out, and again, we're not trying to make it a hard place. It's like I said, you have to go up there. It's a really nice, tranquil spot where somebody can, we put a couple of benches up there where you can sit and reflect and have your moment, and that's the whole goal, I guess.
Is that service easy to snow removal with the, because people will go in there?
Yeah, I mean, it's so that's something that again, the right piece of equipment to do the job. We can certainly do that, and be no different than an alley. We're not trying to grind it down. We're skimming. I mean, you're not going to get it clean completely down, but if you can get it down to within a half an inch or so of snow, it's going to melt. And so, just some good thoughts. So, is that where you guys would see it? You want me to do a little bit more research on? Because I really don't know.
Where is the closest?
I'm not aware of any scatter gardens necessarily in the surrounding communities, but they're gaining. A lot of people want, and there are in other areas. There are scatter gardens. I'm just not aware of any, locally.
I'm not either. I haven't looked.
Well, right. I mean, it's not.
Haven't- Yeah.
I know when I worked in California and I worked on hospice, it was very, very popular. So,
I just looked it up really quick. It said the price for using a scattering garden can range from 100 to 400,
Okay.
depending on the cemetery,
thinking-
memorial plaque, or nameplate.
And again, based on the, the price of our cremain lot, which is a small lot, we're not talking the 5x10, but a cremain specific lot, right now we charge $155, so, maybe 100, and that's kind of where I was, maybe that $100 range is
What I
is
think
is
would be
where
reasonable.
we should be.
I kind of like that too.
I
Like
do
it's
too.
an even, as long as grandma can, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want to make it so expensive that people don't utilize it.
Right. Well, and again, that's not the
Yeah.
idea is not as a moneymaker. It's a service.
Yeah,
I mean,
Pretty cheap, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Do they,
so let's do this. Let's go with $100, and I will research it a little more, and I will send out to you what I find, and that may, I mean, that'll at least be a starting point, and that may or may not. Then we may come back and go, yeah, maybe it needs to be $120, whatever. But I think if we kind of go with a starting point of $100 would be a good, at least that gets us able to move forward. Because we'll need that, that will have to be added to our ordinance, and
Yeah.
so that will at least give us a way to be able to get our attorney to start drafting something that we can bring back to you. Okay.
I think it's reasonable.
Perfect. The other piece of old business is the Topaz and the Chimera fuel reduction. For the most part, they are finishing up on that entire harvest. They are going to do some additional work on some of the on the grams and the Sam, who's the other grams and who's beside them? It always slips my mind. But anyways, they're going to do some harvesting on that private property, which is adjacent to the city watershed. And so we have reached out to them to inquire at that time, if they're able to do any harvest on the watershed. We would certainly be open to it. We had been working with the Forest Service to make that happen. And like I said, this first part, the Topaz, was pretty much, for the most part, everything was on the west side of Vanacker. So there's going to be some subsequent projects that jump back over on the other side of the road. And that's when the Forest Service anyways thought that we may have an opportunity to piggyback with them and get some stuff done, some treatments done. But while they were doing this private piece, like I said, there is an amount of city property that's right adjacent, and I suppose it's been 20 years ago when they did do that harvest in there. That is one of the ways that they went in back when that harvest was done. Harmon. So it's the Grahams and the Harmons. So just wanted to give you a quick update on that. Everything has been going pretty good. They're I guess I think they did a wonderful job, and timing wise, remember we were talking about possibility of years, and they really got in here and cut that down. We do still have some rehabilitation to do on the trails. We're still working through that with the Forest Service and with the Black Hills Trails. And Sam, are you going to touch on that at all? And okay, so we'll maybe have something more at a future meeting on that trail rehabilitation, but we're working with the Forest Service on that and trying to come up with a good solution. So that takes care of our old business. Another map of that Chimera. New business. First thing we had kind of ties back into some of what we've talked about. The city staff had spent a few days looking at what we're trying to come up with is a cloud-based calendar that we will be able to use for all of our facilities. When I say our facilities, we're talking about the community center, the auditorium, our baseball fields, our softball fields, our soccer fields, any city properties that we have, to include the schools. So this is one of the things that in an earlier meeting with the school, and it kind of goes back to that, hey, we never have room for everybody and nobody ever knows what we're using, is this cloud-based facility management calendar, where this would be available to the public to get on and look, and at any given, and so what those different colors are basically different facilities. And so green could be your baseball fields, and orange could be soccer, and red could be the auditorium, and the magenta could be the school gyms. But being able to get on there and see what facilities are being used and by who, in at any time, which would then be able to help. So what we would do, for example, we would get together with our baseball association and say, hey, you guys have X amount of days to allocate your fields and get them scheduled on here. On April 15th, we're going to open it up to the public to be able to, or somebody else to be able to reserve a spot. So we would also use these for the park shelters. So you could get on and you could see, okay, and so there's different modules in here, and you can turn on and turn off by those on the left, clicking those different items. So if you only wanted to see the park shelters, see just the park shelters, but see when they're rented and when they're available. And so what happens is if you want to rent them, you go in and you create an account, and then you're able to reserve those. They then get put into a queue for the staff to approve or disapprove based, but then once it's approved, it's on there, and you're able to see, whether it's available or not without having to call or make inquiries. You could just go out and see. The other nice thing, from a public standpoint, you can see what's going on in town. Hey, we got a track meet here. We've got the soccer tournament here. Not only do we have a soccer tournament, but the fields, down here are being used, the fields at the school, this is something that we've been working on with a lot of the different organizations. Everybody has kind of said, hey, we want to have this central location to be able to see what's going on when the facilities are being used. We can push out rules that say, okay, Rochelle, you can't reserve the field every day for the next 20 days in a row. You could set it to where, you can only reserve it 3 times a week or whatever you want. The flexibility is in there to be able to do those things, and what we would want to prohibit is you always have that one team that, and then the other thing is if they reserve it and they're not using it. So, those are things that we're going to implement. This rec desk is the one that the staff chose that we thought would be the best. And we're moving forward with getting the quotes. It looks like it's going to be about, about $6,000 a year but that was up front to get it implemented too. And
This one was based on usage.
was based
so
on
it could
usage,
be
your
much less.
number of things that you have in there. So other things, like when you click on a facility, it's then going to take you in there and ask you, okay, do you need garbage cans? Do you need this? Do you want bleachers? Do you want so again, a great inventory tool and a good way to, then again, Jeannie, if you wanted the bleachers, you could get on there and you would see that, hey, they're not available this time, but after 4 on this day they are. And again, it'll save a lot of staff time. And it's a really easy and unique program. I think it has a lot of potential to grow. So our goal is to this summer get it implemented on the city side, and then as we get comfortable and get it implemented, we're going to start adding. The goal would be by this fall to be able to bring people on board with it, you know, whether, like I said, the school, the different organizations, you know, have it up and running by fall.
Is there a way on there to like, I guess, in a way to sell your cause in the fact that you could say, well, 3 different organizations want at a time, and then you could.
So we
forward
can,
that
we can
data.
run, we can pull and run reports, and I think that's, you know, some of the reporting that we saw is exactly what you're talking about, that says, hey, these things are, I mean, look at the use on them, and we can also track, you know, for example, like the shelters and things, you know, how much of that use is within our community or out, because you could run a report based on the town, you know, when you fill out the form and you put your address in town, you know, we could say, hey, 60% of the use of the stone shelter is coming from outside of Sturgis. I mean, which again would be great information to have. Same thing with the usage of the courts or the auditorium or whatever. I mean, you can, once you have that data entered in there, you can pull a report on any of that stuff. The other thing that it gives is block out dates. So Cody, when he lines up True Green to come and spray the fields, we can block that out, you know, and that's one of the problems we have, for example, out at Berry Stadium. We go out there, we have our guys scheduled, go out there to mow, and we get out there and there's somebody out there, you know, whether their tent's set up or what, and then now we can't do what we needed to do. So it'll give us the ability, you know, or if we had a water break in the community center, Rod could block out the room, say, hey, they're not available. If you had it already reserved, it would send out an email to you saying, hey, sorry, you know, we had a emergency water line break, the facility's not gonna be available. It's a really neat program, and I think that we'll, like I said, we'll get a lot of use out of it. So just something that we wanted to bring forward. Again, you know, we've talked about this on a lot of different levels with a lot of different people, and we are moving forward with it, and I think it will be a good thing. It's not intended to be, and there's other programs out there that are more on events, you know, and that was one thing, and that's another thing that we've been looking at is a community calendar that would show, you know, events, and I think that we'll put some events on here, like for example, we would put on this, you know, these 3 days of Mustang Rally, just so that you know if you're trying to reserve something, hey, but there's other better applications for, like, you know, we got the Wednesday night deal, we got the community garage sales and things like that. This isn't necessarily for that. There was way better programs that would do this. This is strictly more of a facilities. Rod would be able to, you know, do his billing rate through here. If there was you know, you wanted to use the theater and it costs X amount of dollars, you can pay for it right up front. Same thing with the shelters on the deposits. You can do tickets, like if you had an event in the theater and you were charging admission, this program will do all that for you, and so, you know, you could set that, hey, we have 250 seats, there's 250 tickets. I mean, it will keep track of where you're at.
Did you say the school isn't gonna utilize this too, is it? Or is it?
The school has asked that, I mean, that's what, one of the main reasons that brought this forward was the school and the city. You know, the school now with all the different sports that are a part of, that fall underneath of the high school sports association, they're using all our facilities. We don't know when I mean, so again, to be able to know that, hey, the high school softball team is using the facilities, you know, this field or the high school soccer doesn't conflict with the Sturgis soccer, because it's two different things, and most of the seasons go on at the same time. Same thing with basketball, especially when we have tournaments and they're using all these different facilities. So at some point in the future, the school will be a user. I mean, the city will manage this program, and there can be a bunch of different users. I mean, you can be a user, you can sign up and be a user and rent things, but, you know, the way that it would work was like I explained earlier, those organizations would have first, you know, would be like, hey, your deadline, school or is this date to, You know, and we would put it on the soccer association, say, hey, you guys have first right, you know, get all your coaches, how you want to delve out practice time, you know, that's up to you, but you guys have till this date to do it, and then we're going to turn it open and make those facilities open for anybody to reserve. So, but those organizations or those sports groups would have first, you know, the first opportunity to do it. So I think it, like I said, there's a lot of moving parts, and we just looked at it a couple weeks ago, but I was pretty impressed with what it looked like. So I think it'll be a good thing. Again, we just got to get it implemented. That one had a little bit longer lead time in building it.
It was only about 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good stuff.
Where's football gonna land then? Would that be under the
Football.
school or the city, like with the whole, who's gonna put those dates in, I wonder?
Well, I think that the you know, the athletics director, I mean, they set the season dates in advance, so I mean, it would be nothing to be able, and honestly, you know, unless we did something multi-use, I mean, the football field is the football field, and then our agreement with the school is when it's not being used for that, then it's open to the public. But once that schedule's set, yeah, we just put those time and dates, and you know, they would tell us, hey, we have practice from whatever school gets out at 3 or 4 to 6 every night, and then the Buccaneers come in and they have it. I mean, and again, to be able to see that, because if I want to go down and walk on the track and I don't want everybody to see me huffing and puffing, right? I may try and avoid when there's football practice going on. So again, I think it'll be a great tool to be able to use, but I'm pretty excited about it. I thought it was pretty neat.
And I'll just say, the price tag at that 66,000 is reasonable. We're looking on the chamber side of things for an event calendar.
Right.
We're taking on that side, not just the chamber, we're partnering with the city and other entities, but the annual fee for an event one was $7,500, I believe. That was just to keep it running every year. I can't remember what the startup cost was. So that, like, I was kind of excited about that cost. Looking at something similar just to handle events, that price is, and I might have meetings to get a confirmed price on it, but it was about $7,500 a year to keep an event one active, so.
That's pretty spendy.
Next up, patiently waiting, is Sam. I think everybody knows Sam Greer from Black Hills Trails. Been working with him quite a bit over the last year. Decade. Not me personally. The city has, and they've been working for the last decade. But you know, updating our existing plans. They've done a lot of great things, and they've got some really neat things planned for the future, I guess. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to.
Did you have the prior proposal here, Rick, or just the addendum?
Do you want me to pull that one up?
Yeah, let's run through that really quick. So,
I do
you know,
have
we've been talking to Rick quite a bit lately. So, you know, we had interfaced with
The February 22 one?
Yeah.
The old, okay. Yep.
you know, previously we had interfaced directly with Daniel, you know, and you know, as we've been talking about, you know, future projects that we want to do with Rick, he's like, well, you know, we've got a park board again. You need to come to park board. And it was like, well, that's where we started. And, you know, 2012, 13, 14 was with park board, but there wasn't one seated for a while. So here we are. What's old is new again. And so I thought it would be great to give this group just a little context of what we've done and where we are. And, you know, so the Sturgis Trail System, we originally officially proposed in 2013, and it took about a decade to implement. It's, for lack of a better term, done-ish now, at least as originally envisioned. You know, we originally called it the Sturgis Backcountry Trail System. And what that looked like over the past 10 years was about $350,000 in cash that was almost exclusively private dollars, and about 20,000 volunteer hours. And most of those volunteer hours came directly out of this community or surrounding communities. So pretty cool deal. You know, so to sum that effort, it's about of a $1 million investment in the community. And if you were to just go buy it, you know, it's like $1 million plus, if to hire a contractor to do it or what have you. And, you know, so that existing plan from 2013 was implemented. We're still working on a few loose ends. But through the implementation of that plan, we didn't cover everything we want to do. There were a few odds and ends that we discovered. Oh, it'd be great if we did this. It'd be great if we did that. And at some point, perhaps in the not too distant future, I think we'd like to pull together like a version 2 plan. But what we have done between now and then is we had approached Daniel and the others involved 2.5 years ago about, hey, we've identified some low-hanging fruit. Can we just kind of do like a small supplementary plan to go improve some of the stuff we know about? And I'll just walk through a few of those that we had identified that Daniel had previously approved that we're kind of working on right now. And one of them was this Dead Man Trailhead. We haven't done any of this yet. A lot of these are structures and whatnot, and we had just kind of split this up, and Parks Department was going to do some of this, and we're planning on doing the rest. Basically just added a little parking to that trailhead. It's proved to be fairly popular. And common amenities at these trailheads include like someplace to sit, to put your shoes on. You're typically changing shoes out. Maybe like a little privacy structure, so you can go in and put your riding shorts on and then put your blue jeans back on after you're done riding or what have you. Not any toilet type facilities or anything like that, but just some like really simple basic structures to improve the usability of this trailhead. And none of that'll cost very much money, but it'd be a welcome improvement.
Page are you on?
5 of 12. That one. So we had proposed a couple of trails that we wanted to add on city property. And one of these we completed in 2023. And that trail was named for Bob Davis. So that's Bob's Trail.
That's the top one that goes up behind the football field.
The yellow. Yeah.
And so that one was great. We got to work with Bob's family, his sisters, on that, and that was a pretty cool experience to be able to do that. And then this other one on the bottom is just a little connector trail that ties that neighborhood together with Red Cut Road across mostly unusable kind of edge of the Marcotte property. And we see that as a fairly integral connector to tie the west side of town together with the rest of the trail system. And we're actively working on that. Maybe Rick wants to say more, but we're actively meeting us in the city and GFP to kind of figure that piece out, because there's kind of an interface there that involves the GFP, and we'd like to do it right, and we'd like to do it one time. We're hoping to get that done in the very near future, but we're actively working with a few different people on it. And then these next pieces, we proposed some things or kind of shared these concepts for additional connectors and stuff out on the forest. Some of this has kind of been held up by that Topaz timber sale. The fact that to do this will involve doing a new NEPA, which, $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 in terms of environmental study. Not quite sure how to pay for that yet, but also if we're gonna incur that kind of expense, we've already done it once. There $50,000 was spent on the original, closer to 60 on the original environmental study. If we're gonna do it again, we could probably wanna engage some more people and talk a little longer about making sure that we only have to do it one more time, not 2 or 3 more times.
So just for clarification, the NEPA is a requirement that we have to go through in order to do anything on the Forest Service or on BLM, which is basically like what Sam says, an environmental. Basically, it says any of these trails that are constructed don't have a negative impact on, the long-eared bat or this or that or.
So if you do one, how long do you have to build it out, or till you'd have to redo it if, say, there's a stall in the?
So typically from saying, hey, Forest Service, we've got a plan, we have the money to pay for a third-party NEPA contractor, typically something like a 3-year process to get it approved. Typically, it's never approved as proposed. Typically, there are always changes. And then usually you'd have about 10 years to put it on the ground. And then, I don't remember the term, but I believe the City of Sturgis's contract with the Forest Service for operation and maintenance of the trails that have been put on the ground is something like 20 or 30 years.
I think it's 30 years.
Yeah.
So you have 10 years to get the project done after you get the NEPA report?
Yeah. Which is pretty generous. Once you have the ability to go do it, in a lot of these cases, permission is the hard part. So, once the decision memo for this trail system was signed, it took us less than a year to get it all on the ground.
So what color is actually built now?
All of the red exists on the ground. And so we have some great ideas for some stuff we want to add. And really what a lot of that we want to add is what we've built, what we've already established. Black Hills Trails in the city is, we kind of have the 80% in the middle. We have a world-class, frankly, trail system on our doorstep now. But we don't have stuff that's incredibly beginner-friendly. If you're very new to mountain biking or what have you, there's not a lot of trail here that's really accessible and progressive that's gonna, take you from zero.
Is that your yellow, the one that kind of runs parallel to, I think, a road? Is that gonna be your entry level? Is that your idea?
Typically the entry-level stuff you'd put in town or very close to town.
Oh, okay.
So a very beginning rider is going to be doing shorter rides. You want to make it, a lot more accessible. A lot of the beginner stuff might be constructed features or stuff like that, maybe even in a city park. And I'll get into that in a little bit. So this would be at the complete other end of the spectrum. We've got a lot of stuff that caters to, those riders that are the middle of the road or what have you, but more expert level, more flowy, more fun, things that cyclists would want to make a trip for because they heard about that one trail. We've got all that stuff in the middle, but we're missing, that 5-10% at either ends. The easy stuff and the really hard, fun, challenging stuff.
So the yellow is the fun.
Right on. Yep.
What's the road? Is that Vanacker Road?
The white, yeah.
The white
The
thing?
white is the pavement or the asphalt. Yes.
So on which side is that? Does that go through any private property, or?
No.
Where's the Grams at on that picture?
Right, just down to the very bottom of it.
Yeah. Bottom
The corner?
left corner. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. And so then your parking is down.
So where the two yellow and the red comes together is about where the trailhead is.
Yep.
That goes into the city water dams.
Yep.
Where you want to put parking? More parking.
Yep. That parking lot got expanded. I guess in 23. We're waiting till they're done using it as a timber landing to further improve it, but it is larger than it was.
So that, we got in the RTP grant, that's the trailhead that RTP grant is.
So is that where I park to go hike to the city dams too? Okay. So that's where you want to put the more parking. Gotcha.
Sorry, I'm snoozing over
You're
here,
good.
Sam.
Yours doesn't match mine quite perfectly, but that's fine. Back one, if you would.
This one?
how come those two little yellow marks, like the Marcotte property through that, how come those two can't connect? Is that private property or is that too steep or,
Which two?
you see where the Marcotte line is?
Yep.
I think right in
Yeah,
here.
right there.
So they would. There's an existing
Road.
road there.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah, so that's a good spot, Rick. One of the things that we haven't picked on yet, and the reason we've done what we've done and haven't done what we haven't is because of funding. And in 21 and 22, we were really focused on raising money for our endowed fund. And so what we were working on early after the approval of this were the things that we didn't have to go fundraise for, because we were engaged in a fundraising campaign for our endowment. But one of the things we would really like to do to help people develop their skills, both youth and adults, beginning adults alike, is build out some like mini bike parks, a bike park or a couple of mini bike parks using playground type of in town. So they'd be, near where people live. They'd be easily maintainable because they'd be near installations that are similar, that already have to be string trimmed around or what have you. And, not only would, youth use them regularly, but they would also provide a form of progression for older individuals that hadn't had a lot of time on a bike. And typically you find that, kids will have a ball on stuff like this all day. Older people, teenagers or adults or what have you, that haven't spent a lot of time on a bike, they don't need much time on features like this before they're confident and ready to go hit the trails. But without something like this, you're missing a link that enables them to get from zero to, that level of confidence where they can go out and tackle a trail. And one of the big reasons we haven't maybe tackled this yet is, like I said, we were trying to build that endowed fund to help with our maintenance, and this looks like an expenditure, and I think we're ready now to start looking for funding for that. And the fundraising for our endowment was a pretty big success. We raised about $115,000 in the city of Sturgis. Right now, just the hard costs of trail maintenance is about $15,000 every year. Obviously there's no labor or anything in that. That's 100% volunteer. But that endowed fund is now paying for $4,000 or $5,000 a year of our hard costs. So that's been a nice addition.
So where would you put those? Do you have an idea?
We had identified several locations, which is on the next page, Rick. Maybe not on that page.
Yeah, those are the yellow areas or the.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I believe we had talked about Dead Man Trailhead and maybe Woodland Park and Centennial Park. And I guess that one on there is a long Dead Man bike path. But our thought was either a loop or a little installation, or you could, install those type of features along existing bike path, and give kids the opportunity to be on and off of the bike path where that would work and they wouldn't interfere kind of with the normal flow of the bike path, but the idea is install them in proximity to the bike path. The existing skills park, jump park, is on the bike path. And if we could provide a couple other opportunities like this on the bike path, we might find that at least some kids are traveling from one to the other, back to the first one, to change up their experience throughout the afternoon after school or whatever. And wouldn't you know it, fooled you guys, you're getting a little exercise too. You know, and a lot of this is kind of, we've been through already with the city. It's just kind of our process and whatnot. And like I said, I believe this was approved by Daniel in 2022. And we're halfway through it or what have you. And so that's where we are with that. And most recently, we've been talking with Rick about maybe an addendum to this. And this new work that we would like to do is also in that vein of let's build out the ends of what we've already got. You know, we've identified what looks like maybe low-hanging fruit, and we'd like to go work on that. So we already have a big gravel parking lot east of town. This is out by Berry Stadium.
The Fort Meade softball fields.
Yep. It's well utilized very infrequently. It's mostly underutilized. So we'd like to establish a trailhead here and add some signage and whatnot. And that's what that means in this context. You know, establish a trailhead, basically put a little star on the map at the other trailheads so they, you know, you can see that this is a trailhead when you're other places on the system, and put up a sign with information and stuff there. And then currently, we built what you see there is the Orange Trail. It was originally called the Youth Trail. You know, it was built to be beginner friendly, very easy. And the current name, it was renamed a number of years ago to Trooper Loop. This plan may involve relocating that. We think we can maintain its character and keep it, you know, a nice, easy trail. But we've identified a zone here where we could build out, you know, I'll rewind just a little bit. Most of what we've built to date is, you know, very expressly and specifically multi-use. You know, very little of what we've constructed around Sturgis is designed just for bikes. You know, it's designed for horseback riders and hikers and dog walkers and bikers, and it was kind of designed for everybody. And this, the idea is it would be designed for bikers. It would be progressive. You know, maybe not something that you would ride your first time on a bike, but it would be an area where you could quickly progress and gain skills in a controlled environment. But it would be downhill directional and fairly bike specific. And so kind of the idea is you would ride downhill from south to north, and then you would loop back around on the yellow, and then you could ride downhill again, and it would be maybe a fifth of a mile or so from top to bottom. And so it wouldn't take very long to go up or down, but in situations like this, typically they do, you know, the bike parlance is sessioning, right? You just do it over and over and over again, and this would be applicable to kids and adults. And it'd be great to build something like this in town, but it's hard to identify an opportunity to build something like this in town. Fortunately, this is pretty well accessible via the bike path, and on a bike, it's a pretty short ride out there.
Where's this again?
This is out at Berry Stadium. They're the hill that they run the cross country around. It's that.
Okay.
That caught on fire here. BLM burned it up here
Okay.
2 years ago.
Now I know what you're talking about.
And I don't know, Sam, is there another component like this anywhere in the Black Hills?
They recently built about a 1,000-foot trail in this style on M Hill.
Okay.
That is the only other trail in this style in the in western South Dakota. And one of the things that on on M Hill is that, you know, if you go to ride it, there are typically 8 or 10 or 12 people hanging out doing laps on it. You know, so it turns into kind of a fixture. It's where people go and hang out, and it's a fun time, you know, to do laps, and people are hanging out at the top and they're hanging out at the bottom and watching each other and giving each other tips, and yeah, pretty cool deal. And then one of the great parts about it is it's people of all ages too.
They usually do this on ski slopes. They have chairlifts. That's kind of what you're talking about, the downhill.
Yes, this is like a very small version of what you might see on a resort, but this is a pretty good opportunity to do something like this.
Because it's yellow, green, and blue, those are all different runs, right?
Yes,
Different
yep,
skill sets.
yep.
Bring my glasses, so I have to.
Yeah, so the yellow would be more of a, you know, the up route or the through route, you know, and the green would be maybe the easier downhill routes, and the blue would be maybe the more advanced downhill routes. So there'd be progression built in, you know, so if you spent some time here, you'd enhance your skills and be better able to tackle the trails, and also it's a lot of fun.
So you can really,
The whole time?
Yeah.
Just right all the way.
So actually, the way these are typically designed and laid out, it's there's a fair bit of engineering that goes into the design in terms of, you know, grade over distance. They're kind of laid out in such a way that if you just coast down them and you don't brake very much and you don't pedal very much, you'll end up going down them at the right speed that all of the features and the obstacles work really well, and it's fun. If you flip to the next one, Rick, there are a couple of photos. So here's a photo of a big bermed corner, and so you can ride up onto that. I don't.
she's got under brakes.
I don't know if we'd end up with anything quite this large out there. But you know, one of the great things about these progressive trails is there is a speed component, and the jumps, if you want to call them that, they aren't really. They're just a big, long, sinuous kind of curve. And so if you really want to get after it and pedal hard and pick up some speed, you can get some air like this. But, you know, you could also ride down it, you know, like a 3-year-old could ride down it on a Strider, and they wouldn't catch air, you know, but
No motorcycle, Justin.
hey, we can talk, Justin. We can talk.
Are there, so on the property that you're looking at, are there, it's gonna
No,
be,
it's pretty open.
Pretty open, yeah.
okay.
And then, you know, here's another example. You know, you can see that there are lots of rolling dips on this, and then big banked corners. And those banked corners are really fun on a right. Like you can go around them at a high rate of speed, and they hold you in, so you can hold speed through them. And then those big rolling dips, if you're going fast enough, you can catch a little air off of them if you want, or you can pump over them. And to pump on a bike, you can pick up speed without pedaling. And so there are a lot of different ways you can kind of ride and have fun on a trail like this. And
that's really similar to what ours would look like.
yes, yep.
How much does something like that cost?
Construction of something like this, it's going to be less because we're going to do it. You know, and we have the expertise, the equipment, et cetera. But construction of something like this, if you were to go hire a contractor, $10 a foot, then we're talking about maybe 5,000 feet total. So 50,000.
So from the city, you just want the land?
Yeah. I mean, money wouldn't hurt.
This is off the beaten path, but does the city own land by the softball fields out there?
Yeah,
On the other side of the road?
all of Berry Stadium, nothing to the east of the softball fields.
Okay.
Everything we own is to the west.
okay.
Oh, wow,
We have several hundred acres out there.
wow.
I guess the other question is, do you get any money from the city at all now, or?
So currently, our operating expenses here in Sturgis, like I said, are about 15,000 a year, give or take, on an average year. We're getting 4,000 to 5,000 a year out of our endowment. We get $2,000 a year directly from the city, and we have to fundraise the rest every year. So the answer is yes, 2,000 a year.
But not a lot.
We give them the storage facility out at,
And
there's other things that are in
Yeah.
our contract.
Yep. I would say that the storage facility that the city gives us is actually at least as beneficial as the money. It probably saves us more than 2,000 a year having access to that. So that's been a huge benefit to us.
And then the parking, wasn't the parking lot gonna be maybe something like the Forest Service was going to help with some of that expenses or something? Wasn't that something like?
No, so that, I mean, the trailhead improvement up at Vanacker is strictly a RTP grant. Between the city Black Hills Trails and then we have to have so much grant or match money and we get the grant. The Forest Service didn't really have anything to do with that one. If we end up looking at one of the Veteran Peak one, we have went back to the Forest Service because it set back off of the road a little bit and said, hey, how can you, you have a portion of road or trail that needs to be maintained to be able to get to the trailhead, I think is what you're
Right, yeah.
talking about.
Did they?
We're still having those discussions with them. We haven't landed one way or another yet.
Yeah, most of the discussions with the Forest Service, I mean, on any topic, it's a 1 to 3 year. Nothing happens fast. And so, yeah, I look forward. Rick has mentioned the same thing to me that he mentioned to you earlier, that he'd like maybe for us to participate in this discussion with this group a little more often, and we look forward to that. Because we would like to go build, this flow trail maybe this year if we can figure that out. But that said, there are a lot of additional things we could do here in Sturgis. We've got the baseline done, right? Like, we're in a great position. It's probably time for all of us to figure out what kind of trail town we want to be and what kind of trail town we want to have.
What's your total mileage on all trails in the area right now? Just what you've developed over the last 10 years?
We've added a little over 40 maybe, and we're about 50 miles here in Sturgis.
Just, okay.
Yeah, and Black Hills Trails has built 80 in the Black Hills.
So 50 for Sturgis and 80 for Black Hills.
Yeah, our organization has built 80 in the last decade. And some of that's been in, Sundance, and some has been in Spearfish, and some has been down by Rapid City, and et cetera.
Some of the bike trails that they're multi-use trails. For example, we've got the one that starts at Moose Drive and goes out to the trailer park to the west. That one, those are projects with the city and the DOT, because those are LTAP projects. Just like the one we did at Vanacker. I mean, they still tie into our trail system and accessibility. We're just partnering with the DOT to do those because they're a grant project, versus, and they're for the hard surface, they're concrete trails. Black Hills Trails primarily does our dirt or gravel
And
trails.
there's an existing bike path master plan.
Comprehensive plan, master plan.
And that was developed, Liz did that before she left in concert with a bunch of School of Mines students, and it was a pretty cool process. And they identified where trails were going to be, you know, because we were still kind of active in the construction process at the time. And so as that bike path plan lays out, it does a really good job, you know, in adding concrete trails that tie the dirt trails together. So as those two plans, you know, lay over the top of each other, it ends up working really, really well. You know, that said, that plan is something like half or more implemented or is about to be. So if we're gonna talk more going forward about, you know, what kind of trail town do we want to be, it probably looks like not just more dirt trails and how do we move forward on that and what do we want, but also more of that inside the community, that connection, that integration. Because one thing that we've found in our research of all these other communities that are kind of a household name for trails is the one thing they all do really well is they have integrated the trails into the community. There are features in the community, you know, it's ride in, ride out, you know, et cetera. And, you know, the Sturgis is incredibly well positioned for that because we're flanked on, you know, 2.5 sides by this public land. You know, we really already have, you know, 7 or 8 access points to hit the trails from city limits. So we're well positioned to do, you know, kind of whatever we want. We can be whatever we want to be. We've been dealt a really, really good hand in terms of trails and public land access. And, you know, it's kind of up to us to figure out what we want to do next.
Do you hold any like races or anything like that as far as like, I mean, you are the Wednesday thing, but like, I was just thinking of a fundraiser event or something like that. Something, I was just curious if you do.
We hosted the Tatanka mountain bike race previously, and we had to stop doing that just because we didn't quite have enough help. You know, something like that could come back at some point or what have you, but we do work very closely with the race directors, the Black Hills 100, Chris and Ryan, and they run an incredible event. And that event does help us out every year, and it varies year by year, but they definitely invest in trails with some of what they derive from that race, and that event is a pretty incredible addition to this community. What? Oh, okay.
That's the last. I don't have any more pages.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly how we move forward on this piece out by Berry Stadium, but like I said, if we can figure that out, we'd love to do that this year.
And I sure think that's a doable, I mean, doable project and probably, you know, I guess what we would want to see from the park board is a recommendation to the council to move forward with that. I think that it's got all the city staff support. So we would like a motion and a recommendation from the park board, if you so see it, to make a recommendation to the council to proceed with that.
I agree with, you know, approving it and everything, but I do think maybe the city needs to contribute some money at some point, more than $2,000. So I guess I would just hope that they would maybe consider that too. Okay, make a motion to approve the Berry bike track. I don't know, what are you calling it, Sam?
That would be I think we would like to see the Buffalo Soldier Trailhead as well as the downhill trails on the Berry Stadium property.
Second it if you propose
Whatever Rick
that
said,
correctly.
I agree. What a Berry, they need a different name.
I don't know that we'll ever be able to get, I mean, there's a lot of history there, why it's Berry Stadium.
But
I
is
mean,
that gonna be the name, Berry Stadium downhill?
yeah, up for future discussion on naming it. The Buffalo Soldier Trailhead, again, is because of the Calvary, and
Okay,
so.
so that's, just make sure it's legit, that's what we're approving.
And I'd second it.
Okay, so we have a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right. Perfect. Thank you for that. Any last comments for Sam? Anything, Sam, you,
Good job,
good,
Sam.
good work.
good
Yeah,
job.
we do certainly appreciate Black Hills Trails and everything that you do. You know, we're gonna continue to work together, and we've got some other parts that I think we'll see in the future. You know, our current contract goes another year to the end of 2025.
The December 25, yes.
So we'll be coming back with a new contract that will have different parts in it. In the meantime, again, we're working with Sam and the organization to be able to, you know, we're not always able to provide money, but there's other things that we can provide assistance with. And we're talking and making sure that we can do that, so that we can keep them whole. Not to say that at some point in time there won't be a bigger contribution from the city, but we are doing things with them, I
Yeah.
think, so.
And they definitely have, you know, I appreciate the city helping and everything. Sometimes I feel like we give a lot of money to all these other sports, and yet mountain biking is a sport too. And
Yeah.
sometimes I don't know,
Lifelong.
sometimes I think we kind of, I don't know, take advantage of Sam and Kevin, but I don't know if they get,
Well, we do have a lot of hard costs to be overcome, and the pieces presented here, you know, maybe retail-ish price on this piece out by Berry Stadium might be 50,000, but we'll probably get it done for 15 or 20 or something like that. I mean, there are hard costs. It's just that, you know, with us doing it, with, you know, owning the equipment, et cetera, we're able to do it for a lot less. You know, in this, like a bike park, you know, one of those mini parks, like we talked about in town, you know, one of those might be 25, 30, 50,000, depending on size, scale, et cetera. You know, so there are hard costs, and we are going to be looking to do some fundraising to help with that.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming. The last thing that we have on, under new business is the 2024 Community Assistant Funds Grant. This is a grant through the federal government. This is one of the items that the Forest Service brought forward to us as a possibility, so we are going to apply for this grant. This is a $300,000 grant that will, if we're selected and able to use that, this picture up on the screen is actually the watershed property, the dams. We've been working with the state Forestry Division and came up with a plan, and that's what you see there in stand 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Each one of those has different treatments. Given the steepness and topography of a lot of the watershed project, it fits in very well with this tethered logging. The downside to tethered logging versus traditional logging, usually you make money on traditional logging because they pay you for the lumber. On the tethered, that is not the case, and in most instances, you have to pay to have the work done because the cost is so high. So this grant would allow us to be able to go in and harvest and do some fuel reductions and different treatments on the watershed project without having expense to the city, because we would get the grant that would cover the cost of that. So this grant is due, I'm working on it now. It's due the middle of March. It has to be submitted. So just kind of more of an FYI for you guys that we are, and we're fairly confident that it got sent out to us and to Deadwood. There's very few, because you have to be contiguous to, surrounded by Forest Service, which most communities aren't. And then you have to have a plan in place, and there has to be an active operation around, which we have. So this was really as a grant that's tailored to our current conditions. So really hopeful. We think we have a good chance of getting that grant, and again, that will be tremendous for the watershed property to be able to clean that up. And I don't know if you guys have been up Vanacker Canyon at all, but the work they've done is really, I mean, it's night and day difference from the private property to the other.
I see lots of trees gone.
Huh?
I see lots of trees gone.
Yeah, but it's a healthier forest. I mean, so. Anyways, that's all we had on that one. It just, like I said, kind of a FYI. So with that, we have any other matters that come before the board? If not, we'll look for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Perfect.
I second.
Adjourn at 8:21 PM.